Hey, what's up, everybody? This is going to be a review of five Chikara shows. I'm going to go through King of Trios, the Brooklyn show, and the first show of the year. So let me start off with the season premiere for season 10. We have Chaos in the Sea of Lost Souls. This took place in Philadelphia. Now, this didn't really capture the kind of magic that A Touch of Class had last year's season premiere. A Touch of Class was an excellent show from top to bottom. This really didn't capture the class and the magic and the the spectacle that A Touch of Class was. A Touch of Class was amazing. This was disappointing, I would say. I think it's a little bit overrated. A really dull undercard, I would say. The crowd just sucked here. I would agree with some people. Definitely reminiscent of the ROH on HDNet crowd, which sucks. And we have the Osirian Portal and F.I.S.T, a really good opener. That was good. Some of the other highlights from the show, Eddie Kingston and El Generico, great match. I think it's kind of underrated. This definitely saved the show from being kind of weak. And, because of that match, I would say this is actually a pretty decent show. I'd probably still give this a 7.5. Eddie and El Generico, just really good stuff between them. I can't say enough about it. And, let me just say this. El Generico, you put him in the ring with someone at least halfway decent, you're going to get a great match. The same thing with Eddie Kingston. Put him in the ring with at least someone that could go. You're definitely guaranteed at least something good. And then we have Mike Quackenbush, Jigsaw, and the Colony taking on Claudio, Aries, and Delirious, and Tim Donst at the BDK. Now, on paper, it looks like a great main event. It looks like it makes a lot of sense. You have Atomic Coast action. You get the Golden Boys of Chikara versus the evilness of the BDK. I mean, you would expect something great, but I think the crowd was going through burnout at the time. I think a lot of people are just burned out, not just that HDNet crowd. I think people on YouTube too. I think we've just seen too much great stuff. At least on the indies. I know the mainstream scene sucks, but sometimes people just don't really care about seeing a great match. Sometimes it just kind of feels played out, and the crowd treated this main event like. They went into the match with the mentality that, it's kind of played out to put on a great match. So the match kind of suffered. It was a 3.5-star match. The one good thing that the match did accomplish, though, was that it set up, Quackenbush and Jigsaw against the Colony for the Campeones de Parejas, which would take place in Brooklyn. So I thought that was good. Overall, it was a pretty decent show. It wasn't bad. Next up, let's go right into, let me see, Creatures from the Tar Swamp, the return out to Brooklyn. Now let me say this, in my opinion, this wasn't quite as good as Through Savage Progress because the Jungle Line. I have that show is great for me. It has a special place in my heart because I went to that show on my birthday, and something really bad happened the night before, and I really needed to take my mind. I wasn't planning on going to the show because Glory of Honor was the previous weekend. I didn't have a lot of money at the time, but that show really saved my birthday and really made it, a pleasant day, which it probably would have been one of the worst days of my life. So I just have to thank Quackenbush and Manami Toyota for going out there and all those guys for delivering a great show and a great main event. But this was almost as good. I think the undercard is a little bit overrated. I mean, I just really couldn't appreciate some of the storyline stuff as much as some of the other guys did because I haven't been following every show. But great double main event. I would say that maybe some of you Chikara experts could help me out, but I've probably seen about maybe 20 to 25 Chikara shows. But I would say maybe the greatest double main event in Chikara history with this match. I mean, with this show, I really think you can make a case for that. We had the Colony versus Mike Quackenbush and Jigsaw, 2 out of 3 falls. This was excellent. I would say this is probably better than any other match, any match that the BDK had last year while they were the champions. So I think that says a lot right there. A four-star match. This got a lot of time. There was some great chain wrestling here. I love the first couple falls of the match and how they were executed. Great chain wrestling with the ants could definitely go on the mat, which is something I've never really appreciated until now. And the finish for Jigsaw was great. The Death Valley driver off the top rope. Everyone needs to check that out. That was a great match. And the Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli, great main event. They said 18 months in the making. I didn't know if it was that quite that long, but very, very stiff. Great stuff between Claudio and Kingston. Probably not as good as the Three-Fisted Tails match. I just love that match, but this had more time. This felt like a bigger matchup. I love the aftermath. It's really put Claudio back as a beast. I think the BDK has been losing way too much since the summertime, so it was a pleasant to see Claudio, whip the shit out of Kingston. A vicious beatdown. One of an epic, heel, beating down a babyface. Just really good stuff to end that show. Everyone needs to check it out. I'd probably say 8.5. I would say this is Chikara's show of the year so far, even better than any show from King of Trios. So. Definitely try to check it out. All right, so let's get right into King of Trios. I thought it was good. I really had a lot of fun watching it. I just think some of the shows went a little bit too long, and I would say that I don't know, I kind of prefer King of Trios 2010, and maybe King of Trios 2009 had the best moments from 2009. Definitely for probably the better than any moments from 2010. That's just my opinion, but don't get me wrong though; these are still must-see shows. And the other thing was, I just think that maybe they could have done a better job bringing in better talent for this show. I love some of the guys that they brought in. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like they could have done it just slightly a little bit better job. I would imagine that DVD sales for Chikara have been really high compared to some of the other years. So I don't know. I just would have expected, you know, a better lineup of talent. I know maybe I'm kind of spoiled for saying that, but with the way they promote the show and everything, I don't know. I just think they could have done just a little bit better. Uh, but let's break it down. We had the Osirian Portal taking on Team 3.0. This is the first match of the night, and this is very, very fun. This is more of a comedy match. Generico looked good here. I mean, it was more comedy. I think the wrestling could have been a lot better. The Osirian Portal, it's hot right now. The guy they added to the team, I like him and everything. He could definitely go. He's very athletic. His name is it Huracan or Huracan? This guy, I don't like his mask though. He's got like this big beak on his mask. I don't know. I really think they could have found him a better gimmick. But yeah, so let's move on to F.I.S.T versus Team Australia. Team Australia really stood out as the worst team from this whole weekend. Really wasn't impressed with them. I mean, that was probably the weakest match on the card. Next up, we had the Soul Touchers taking on the Bruderschaft of Tim Donst, Delirious, and Jakob Hammermier. Now, let me say, the one problem with the show is Claudio. They really should have made more of an effort to have Claudio on the show. I know Claudio's a no with Hero right now, so that couldn't happen. But just with everything last year, how Claudio and the BDK were so dominant by winning King of Trios, you just would have expected them to at least defend their crown this year, but that didn't really happen. The BDK team was weak. I mean, Tim Donst, Delirious wasn't really part of the stable the whole year last year, and Jacob Hammermier, I didn't even think the guy was a wrestler. So, I mean, it was pretty much Tim Donst, who I'm not really that big of a fan of, being the captain of the BDK. So, but the Soul Touchers, I mean, they've had better matches in the past with BDK. These two teams have been feuding since June. But the BDK team, let me say this. I'm sorry, not the BDK team. The Soul Touchers. The Soul Touchers actually had this guy on their team. And Kingston was so funny on commentary because he's like, looks like the guy from Die Hard. He's like, oh, it looks. And then Gavin last week was like, who? Bruce Willis? He's like, no, the guy from The Building. He's like, who are you talking about? He's like, oh, the guy from The Building. And I don't know why he didn't. He's talking about the guy from Family Matters. The guy. You remember the guy from Urkel, the Urkel show, the fatter cop. That guy from the Soul Touchers definitely looks just like him. So I thought that was funny, but I don't know why Kingston couldn't tell us who he was talking about. But that's who he was talking about. So I thought that was funny. All right, next up we had the Amazing Red and the Maximos. It's taking out Quackenbush, Jigsaw, Manami, Toyota. I haven't seen the the Maximos since the early days of ROH. They definitely gained some weight, but they still look good. This is probably the match of the night from night one. Really, really enjoyed it. Quackenbush looked great. Toyota looked very, very. I thought this was probably Toyota's best showing from the whole weekend. Amazing Red, very, very young still, even though he's been in the business for like 10 or 11 years. So that was good. Next up, we had Dragon Gate taking out Hollow Wicked, Frightmare, and Ultramantis Black. And Dragon Gate featured, they featured Akira Tozawa. Great move there to bring in Tozawa for these shows. But it's the other Dragon Gate guys. We have Super Shiza, who's very, very well respected. That's what Quackenbush said. He said that Jorge Rivera said one of the best technicians in the world, actually. And then we had Kagatora. These are not two of the flashiest Dragon Gate wrestlers that they paired Tozawa up against. I would have loved to. I don't know. Was it really too much to ask to bring in Sema, Naruki Doi, Dragon Kid, Shingo? Was it really that much expensive? You would think with Dragon Gate USA and Chikara and the partnership that that could have happened. But this is pretty good though. I mean, it was a solid match. Really, nothing much to say about it. Tozawa was the man. Frightmare. I'm a big fan of Frightmare, so this was still good. I think night one is pretty good. I think the whole show is just a little bit underrated, to tell you the truth, because you do get to see nothing but trios action, which I like. And then we have Asako Pro taking on the Throwbacks and Matt Classic, who's actually Cole Cabana. A very, very funny match. Just like last year, Cabana really stole the show as far as the comedy goes. Just excellent, excellent stuff. He did some of the same spots he did last year with the, faking off the top rope and then just jumping off the ledge of the ring apron. I thought that was hilarious. Throwbacks they've been having some really good comedy matches lately. The match they had in Brooklyn was pretty underrated too, so definitely check that out. But yeah, let's move on to the next match. We had Sinn, Bodhi, and the Batiri, Obariyon and Kodama taking on the Colony, Fire Ant, Soldier Ant, and Green Ant. I think the Batiri is kind of overpushed in Chikara right now. I'm not that big of a fan of the gimmick. Now, one of these guys at the Young Lions Cup had like face paint, green face paint, looked kind of evil looking, I would say. But I don't know. I'm not gonna say it seems out of place for Chikara, but it's just a gimmick I can't really get behind. I can't take them too seriously, especially Sinn, Bodhi so far, and the whole storyline with Ultramantis Black. I just think they kind of dropped the ball on it. I'm just not really that interested at this point. But yeah, the Colony had a generic 3-star match here. I mean, the Batiri is pretty decent though. They're not bad in the ring. I just don't think they're anything special. They could get the job done. I will say that about it. All right, next up we have Michinoko Pro taking on Team Minnesota. Michinoko Pro was definitely probably the biggest draw for King of Trios 2011. I mean, you had the great Sasuke, Dick Togo, and Jinsei Shinshaki, who's formerly the guy that faced Bret Hart and X-Pac in the WWE, Hakushi, in 1995, SummerSlam 95. He faced 1-2-3 Kid. And then, they actually faced, 1-2-3 Kid and Eric Cannon and Darren Corbin from the first promotion. And this was good. I would say 1-2-3 Kid, X-Pac looked really, really good, man. He had a great showing. He definitely slimmed down. I think, I'm not so sure how serious, X-Pac or 1-2-3 Kid Sean Waltman. I don't know how serious he is about making a serious comeback, but he needs to do more shows like this because he looked great. He was probably the MVP of this whole weekend. From a I don't know, from a certain standpoint, I say he probably was, but I really think he needs to distance himself from Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. If he wants to get better bookings and for people to take him more seriously, because I think Hall's reputation is so fucked right now that he needs to do a better job of I mean not tagging up with them and just staying away from them, in my opinion, at least in professional wrestling.